Up elections right now. If you are interested in running for ITS Georgia's board, not just the board of directors, but the officer positions, you can scan this wonderful QR code. You could do that right now, Troy. And okay, no, I tried. All right. You can nominate yourself. You can nominate others. You can nominate Troy Galloway 100 times. We would love to see those nominations. Those nominations will be open throughout the summer, and ultimately we will be voting here in the fall. But next up, and I think more excitingly, sorry, Tom, is ITS World Congress. So I think you've probably heard this from me about 100 times so far, so why not one more time? ITS World Congress will be in Atlanta, Georgia this year. There's going to be somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 people attending. This is a wonderful opportunity for us all to be showcasing the wonderful work that we're doing, as well as take in the wonderful work that's going on across the entire globe. What's awesome for ITS Georgia members is that we get a 15% discount. Ooh, that's a lot of money if you've seen the prices from ITS World Congress. So in order to take advantage of that, Troy, have we sent it out? Okay. We are sending out the code to all the points of contact for your respective organizations. So for Arcadis, that's me. So if you want that code, you would come and talk to me if you work at Arcadis. If you're not yet a member of ITS Georgia, this is a great opportunity to do that. You can talk, in fact, to Troy Galloway about joining. The annual fee for ITS Georgia will more than pay for the discount that you will get with ITS World Congress. So, saying that, take out your phones, get on to ITSGA.org, register away. We'd love to have you, not just for this year, but for the many years to come. And before I hand it over to Bing for ITE, I did want to say thank you to our sponsor from the ITS Georgia side, which is Kimley-Horn. I think Juan, wherever you are. You are welcome to come on up and talk and say all wonderful things about Kimley-Horn that you want.
Hi, everybody. I think that we have some slides. Okay, yeah, we can go to the next one. Well, my name is Juan Duarte. I've been with Kimley-Horn, I think close to 12 years now, mostly involved on all the traffic operations, ITS type of work. And as you can see here, I'm going to give you a general overview of what Kimley-Horn is about. We are an engineering, planning, design, consulting firm. We have about 140 offices across the country and more than 8,500 employees, as you can see. Out of those 8,500 employees, I think that we may have I would say 0.5% here. I don't know, if you are part of Kimley-Horn team, can you just stand up so everybody can see all our Kimley-Horn employees that are attending this meeting? So we have 31, so it's a little bit less than the 0.05% I was thinking about. But yeah, and we have been serving our clients for more than 58 years. So glad to be doing that. Can we go to the next? Oh, yeah, okay. All right, what we do, I wanted to share this with everybody just because I know that most of you know us on the type of work that we do on the traffic operations, on the ITS, roadway design, development services, but there is a lot of more things that we do. Look at this screen, pick one thing that you may think, hey, I didn't know Kimley-Horn do that. Forensics. Do you know that we do aviation? We do technology and software. That's one thing that I wanted to highlight today. There is a lot of applications that we are developing that can help you to find solutions to your daily problems. So you saw how many people we have here. If you have any questions about any particular of these topics, just reach out to any of us or come to me, and we'll guide you on the right direction and the right point of contact. Kimley-Horn has been awarded in different rankings. I just wanted to list these for those that don't know much what benefits is to be part of our company. We have been on the best companies to work for on the Fortune 100 for, I think that is 18 years straight. So if you are willing to or wanting to join us at some point, you're welcome. Here is a scan. You can come here, see what careers are available in our organization. There is all kind of things. Use all the topics that we have. So there might be something for you if you're interested in changing careers or whatever it is. So you're welcome. So any questions, anything that you need, just reach out to anybody here from Kimley-Horn and enjoy the meeting. There is a lot of. I think I was gonna mention to Chief and everybody. You saw how many people we have here from Kimley-Horn, and you're wondering how we manage these many events for you guys. This is all the people that is doing that. I know that we're gonna be talking about that today. So yeah, any questions that anybody has related also to events, they can ask any of these team members here. So thank you very much.
And again, thank you to Kimley-Horn for being the ITS Georgia sponsor. Like all of our monthly meetings, we are able to keep our prices the way we have been because of our monthly sponsors and because of the support from our community at large. As a last shameless plug for ITS Georgia, we are the best, #1, I believe, in Fortune magazine hirer of ITS Georgia technology people, nonprofit in the state of Georgia. So if you want to be a member of the board, we're certainly the top for that. So with that, Bing, I'll hand it over to you for ITE.
Okay, so I also have a couple of announcements. Oh, actually, first we're going to have Christy do the president's announcements. Do you want to do them?
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Hopefully, I'm not gonna bore you too much. Let's see. So, good news. This is at the Southern District ITE. We were awarded as a best section again this year. So, I mean, this is all due to your volunteers and board members and our leaders and past and present leaders. So I just want to give it a applause. Thank you, everyone. Just a quick recap from our recent event, but these are some fun excitements from our ITE. There are 2 announcements that maybe Sam can add. Sam, you want to go? Okay, all right.
I'll be brief, but we're doing our 2nd annual STEAM camp. We officially have a wait list, which is outstanding news. Last year we got close to that, but doesn't mean that you still can't sign up for your kid. If you didn't sign up for your kid, there's a chance that we'll have someone drop off and you can get your kid in. But one of the most important things is we need volunteers. So if you haven't signed up for volunteer yet, please go check out the ITE Georgia website. That's where you can sign up. We especially need volunteers for the 2nd day, working with the high school students and middle school students. So if you want more information on that, just please reach out to me after the meeting and I can give you an update. And this year, volunteers will get t-shirts as well. So that's incentive for you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Awesome. The final announcement is a summer seminar. It's our annual conference in St. Simon's in July. Early registration, take advantage of it. That ends in June 20th. But you just please make sure that you're up to date with your membership to get a membership discount. So that's all I wanted. Before I hand it over to Bing, I just want to thank Matt and Georgia ITS Georgia. I mean, it's always great to have a joint meeting with ITS Georgia. I'm so looking forward to today's panel discussion on the World Cup preparation. So thank you. And with that, I'll turn it back to Bing.
Okay, we have a couple quick committee updates, but before that, I was told to give an update for all public sector people. If you need a parking validation for the parking deck, please go see Caitlin in the pink shirt at the door. So she has the parking validations for the deck. You're welcome. For all the students in the room, our scholarship application is live, so you can apply to that on the Georgia IT website, which is gaite.org. And the deadline has been extended until June 6th, which is next Friday. So I know we have a lot of interns because it's a summer, so I hope you guys apply. The Young Members Committee is hosting an intern webinar on June 13th. So if you have questions about that, you can feel free to reach out to me. Or Rahul is here too, or Elizabeth Shin. Our social committee put together a pickleball meetup, which is going to be at the Painted Pickle on June 25th. And then the leadership application or the leadership program application is also live on our website. So that is for people who have a few years of experience. It's a really great program. There's been a lot of people in this room that I know who have been graduates of our program. And the deadline for that application is June 30th. And now our meeting sponsor from the Georgia IT side is Barge. So Steve is going to come and make a few quick announcements.
When I introduce our team, please be just as impressed with the show of force we have here today as Kimley-Horn. Good morning again. Now we got a packed agenda, so I'll make my brief commercial break. Very brief. Again, I'm Steve Mosier, Client Service Leader and Senior PM, help lead our Georgia Transportation practice. Many of you already know Scott Zengraf, our Georgia Traffic Practice Leader, is over at that table. And then also have with us Nadan Cho, Traffic EIT, and recently minted PhD with us here today. Some of you may already be aware, we bring some specialized experience in roundabouts and other alternative intersections and interchanges. Scott's joining us certainly helps reinforce that skill set that we bring to the table. But beyond that, we do provide a full range of traffic engineering services. We got extensive experience in traffic signal and ITS design, traffic studies, TMC operations support, Vision Zero, and other safety initiatives and more. Couple of projects, and actually advance the slide, I'm sorry.
Oh, there's a clicker right here.
Oh, no, I can advance the slide. Cool. Yeah, just a couple of projects on that slide did win a couple of awards at last year's Southern District IT meeting. Just a quick note about Barge as a whole. We're a regional firm, smaller firm, headquartered in Nashville, as you can see from the map, focused on the southeast, celebrating our 70th anniversary this year. We're routinely certified as a great place to work. Our leadership is very much committed to growing our presence here in Georgia, especially. We're now over 100 employees strong in Georgia, spread across 4 offices, 2 in Metro Atlanta here. Another distinguishing feature, we're 100% employee owned. There's no special limitation required to be an owner and own stock. At this point, about 80% of our employees own stock. That means we've all kind of got skin in the game and can share in the firm's success. Also means this model means we're not planning to be acquired by private equity anytime soon, so we're here to stay. And then finally, just a sampling of some of our clients here in Georgia, including Sandy Springs. Pleased to be working. I thought I saw David Lowe here earlier, working with David and also with KCI on an intersection traffic study for them currently that's ongoing. Also, notably, we were involved in some of the advanced master planning and design of the City Springs facility that we're here in today. For GDOT, we're providing subject matter expert and staff augmentation services for GDOT's RAID team, and also a sub-consultant on a couple of the safety and operational improvement contracts. And then lastly, I saw Lenor here for Atlanta DOT, pleased to have just kicked off a project that will implement leading pedestrian intervals at maybe just over 100 intersections across the city as part of the city's Vision Zero action plan. So thank you for that opportunity to do that. So that's all I've got. Again, thanks for the time. If you'd like to know any more about Barge, just come see one of us. Thanks.
Okay, so I will go ahead and introduce our moderator. So our moderator for today's panel is Allison Labor. She is a transportation and traffic engineer specializing in traffic studies as well as event management and planning. She is a graduate from the University of Kentucky with a Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering, and she joined Kimley-Horn in 2019.
Thanks, Bing. All right, can I have the panel join me as well up here? Okay.
This is what you do best.
Yep.
That's for the stream.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you. Okay.
For the house. Okay. For the stream.
You probably don't. What?
Everybody can read.
I probably shouldn't have brought it up. No, they can say all.
Phones.
All right, little hype video to get everybody excited for the World Cup. We're about 1 year out. And yeah, today we are joined by a panel of experts here to talk about event management and preparation for the FIFA World Cup. So I think I'll just have each panelist briefly introduce yourself, provide a little background on yourself, and just some high-level involvement in event management or planning for the World Cup. And then also, if you could share your most memorable sporting event as well. So Lenor, would you like to get started?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Do I need this? I'm Lenor Bromberg. I'm Deputy Commissioner of the Office of Engineering for the Atlanta Department of Transportation. I've been working in the transportation industry for a little more than 30 years. Started actually with GDOT as a co-op, worked as a consultant, a number of different city and county organizations as well. When it comes to special event planning, I started working in that realm from a transportation perspective about 19 or 20 months ago when I started working for the city of Atlanta, and we really started to ramp up our FIFA efforts. It has been an incredible learning experience, especially with having some of these experts help me along the way. From a sporting event perspective, I'm actually going to cheat and do two, because my first most memorable was being in Atlanta for the Olympics. I was a student at Georgia Tech, so got to see firsthand a lot of the things that were happening around the city, and it was amazing to see it from a transportation perspective, but also to go to the events and be in the thralls of so many different sporting events. But more recently, and much more apropos to our conversation today, in 2018, I was in Paris during World Cup and happened to be at a bar watching the France-Uruguay game, and France won, and it was the most incredible experience. And we weren't at the match. We were in some random bar, sitting with folks from literally around the world. There were probably 10 different countries that were represented at this tiny little corner that we were in. And to see that city come alive when France won that game, I now know what to expect this summer, just in bars and restaurants around the city, and we'll expect the same when it comes to the FIFA World Cup matches in 26. We have a lot of excitement coming to the city, and I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Good afternoon. My name is Justin Hatch. I work with Georgia Department of Transportation. I've been here for about 12 years, straight out of school to GDOT. I did not co-op, so you got that on me. My role that brings me here today, I'm an assistant state traffic engineer with the Georgia Department of Transportation out of our TMC Transportation Management Center. The section that I get to lead has grown a lot over the years. It was rather large at this point, but we manage traffic signal maintenance and operations across the entire state. Assisting our districts, but also working in collaboration with cities and counties and other local agencies on all of their traffic needs for arterial traffic management. There's a lot more to that I do want to state that I have a large team. We have some folks really focused, on making the World Cup successful over the next year. I get to help with it basically, but Sam Hendow and them do quite a lot of work with that. So shout out, Sam. Thank you for your work. Additionally, favorite sporting event, we manage the connected vehicle program. We're now starting to revert to that as vehicle to X, V2X, vehicle to everything. So we manage that out of our group as well, and we hope to leverage that technology some here. My favorite sporting event, I will not take the lead and talk about anything I've helped manage. I've been to 3 football games in Athens. Every single one was a win by Georgia Tech. I told my wife I loved her the first time at one of them. So absolutely love beating Georgia in Athens. So if I ever go, it's a guaranteed win, promise. Go Jackets.
Where were you last season?
Yeah. I was at home on the couch actually presenting the next day, and I had a slide ready to make fun of Georgia, so it's my fault.
Okay, just kidding. Hi, everybody. I'm Erin Hendrickson. I am Senior Director of Business Development for Atlanta Sports Council. I also serve full-time on our Atlanta World Cup host committee. I oversee marketing and communications and special projects. I also have a disclaimer because I am 17 weeks pregnant and I get so winded. So just go with it. I'm fine. I'm just winded. And I have been doing this for 13 years. So we planned a number of big sporting events that have came to Atlanta. So everything from 2013 Final Four all the way through 2018 National Championship, 2019 Super Bowl, MLB All-Star Game this summer, Club World Cup this summer, obviously the little event we have next summer, and then looking ahead to 2028 Super Bowl and 2031 Men's Final Four. So We just try to keep Atlanta busy with sports. We get to work with great partners like we have up here today. So yeah, it's an honor to be here, and I have a bunch of favorite sporting events. I will not insult Georgia fans today. So I will pick the 2019 Super Bowl because it was an awesome process from start to finish. We got to work with these amazing partners as well as Kimley-Horn in the planning process, and I think Atlanta just really took the world on a very global stage the way that we actually executed the event from start to finish.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Guerrucci. I started my career in law enforcement in 1997 with the City of Atlanta Police Department, where I did 20 years of service. Most of my service, though, was mainly related to Criminal Investigation Division. I was in homicide for about 10 years, but my traffic did start with Freaknik, if anybody knows who that was. So hours and hours of 12, 16-hour shifts doing. So all of you know how well that traffic plan worked. So I've learned a significant amount since then. After my 20 years with the City of Atlanta, I got the opportunity to become the police chief of the Georgia World Congress Center. And I actually worked more there than I ever had in the great city of Atlanta. So, because as a police chief, you do a little bit of everything. And the World Congress Center does a lot of traffic, whether it's vehicular or pedestrian. So I moved over there, and we started with this great traffic plan, and it's evolved since then. We'll talk about that more as we go along. As far as what I'm doing for FIFA now, part of the host committee on the public safety side. So everything related to safety is what we're trying to engineer from the World Congress Center side. For those of you who don't know, the Congress Center is a little unique because we are state property, state police within the great city of Atlanta. So we have concurrent jurisdiction and we work together, but we somewhat manage everything on that island, which is a great force multiplier and a great partnership. And I think that directly leads to a lot of our success. As far as what my favorite sports event was, I'm going to say Super Bowl 53. For most people, it's a great one-day event. For me, it was a 2-year event. So 2 years worth of planning. And then as we got more into it, it was a 30-day build-out. So that raised my level of excitement and enjoyment and stress a little bit more. So 30 days to build it out. And then I call it a 10-day pull when we actually opened up for the 10 days leading up to the Super Bowl. And those are like 20-hour days. But it turned into one of the greatest experiences in my life and one of the best learning experiences, and hope to carry that on to all of the FIFA events. And I think that's another thing that leads to our success.
All right, great. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to start it off with Erin. Can you just explain, how did we get here? How was Atlanta chosen for the World Cup, and what does the bidding process look like?
Okay, so believe it or not, the bid actually began in 2017. So there was an organization called the United Bid Committee, and they basically led the bid effort on behalf of North America, so the US, Mexico, and Canada. Once they were successful and North America was awarded the bid process, we began basically daily conversations. And part of a typical bid process is just turning in a ton of documentation. You have to show that your city, your region, your state is extremely prepared to bring major sporting events. So they look at everything from our actual infrastructure to public safety to transportation. How are we going to manage the influx of visitors? And our organization at Atlanta Sports Council, we are accustomed to leading these bids on behalf of Atlanta, but we work with great partners that form our bid committee, is what we call it. So the Georgia World Congress Center is part of our bid committee, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the city, the state, the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau. And we just have a couple of other. Atlanta United was part of this one, just given the nature of the event being soccer. But it was a day in and day out process for about 4 years. In June of 2022, Atlanta was ultimately selected as one of 11 US-based host cities, and then there's 2 in Canada and 3 in Mexico. So 16 total host cities for FIFA World Cup. We all had to agree and meet the exact same parameters in order to move forward in the process, but of course every city differs. So where we have kind of a walkable footprint, some stadiums are, over an hour away in other markets. So we had a lot of unique selling points, and I think that that's part of what makes Atlanta's kind of secret sauce so special is we are accustomed to doing these big events, and we have a great story to tell. We work with the same partners, we collaborate, and we also have that walkable downtown footprint that's surrounded by 14,000 hotel rooms, making us a very appealing mix to any event operator. So again, it was a significant several-year process, but we are super grateful for all of our partners that helped kind of facilitate the bid with us and continue to do it for other big events like Super Bowl and Final Four.
Nice. Thanks, Erin. And then, kind of transitioning there from Final Four and Super Bowl, clearly we've hosted big events in the past. Justin, could you speak to what sort of technology enables GDOT to manage traffic so well during events? And are there any new technologies on the horizon?
Sure, thank you. I hate to not mention just that, these aren't just state of Georgia DOT technologies that we deploy. This is very much in partnership with the folks you see here and several other folks sitting out there in the room. Erin had mentioned how Atlanta and Georgia, provides a unique bid and opportunity to host events like this. And for sure, I've gotten to meet with several other state DOTs, and I get to hear some of their gripes. And we are lucky in several ways, in the ways that we have relationships with agencies that we work with, and the way some of this technology I'm about to dive into works. And so none of this is, GDOT's technology or anything like that, but very much in collaboration. We've built out what we feel are several layers that help us manage events like this at, the top level compared to any, would put us at the forefront of anyone in the country, possibly the world. The first one, I've gotten to see most of these thankfully get built out to their current state, which is really cool. But, the first one is an advanced traffic signal controller and traffic signal controller software that enables us to run advanced applications for traffic signal timing and give you options for managing events at the most basic level on a controller on pushing cars down an arterial. We've deployed, almost statewide that same platform, and that platform enables us to do things like just custom programming, traffic responsive timing, things that we just didn't have before we went to this newer platform. That's been over a decade now, but it's still essential, and everything else I talk about relies on that platform. We've deployed communications statewide, so whether that be fiber, which a lot of this, yes, for the area we're talking about managing traffic for, has fiber that's been built out for a while, but we filled in quite a lot of gaps over the years with wireless technology to just ensure that we can manage every single signal in the state remotely. Additionally, there's a plethora of ITS devices that we use at traffic signals and along our arterials that allow us to manage events. So everything that allows you to detect vehicles and pedestrians, everything, CCTV cameras that give you operational awareness of what's going on. There's a lot more ITS devices we could get into, but that communication piece, again, allows you to connect in. We use our Navigator system to integrate all of those devices into a statewide system that our local agencies can all access. We partner very well with City of Atlanta and other cities to make sure that they have access to devices that are on our network and vice versa, so that we're getting, that collaboration can give us a better operational benefit than if it were one person's camera or one person's signal. Additionally, on top of all that, with all those technologies, we pursue contracts that are statewide that are intended to be used by local agencies. We pursue data sharing agreements, that really take away the administrative burden for each individual local agency to go out and pursue these things and possibly collaborate. But by Georgia going out and securing contracts, securing funding in some cases for things like statewide communications, we can just ensure that burden to locals to get that set up individually and then collaborate is highly reduced. That's a model we practice with our districts and, also with locals. As far as new technology, I'd probably highlight just two things. I feel I'm going more in depth than I meant to, but connected vehicle technology we're very excited about. There's a lot of applications, I think, that speak to event management, both improving efficiency of pushing cars and vehicles and pedestrians in and out, as well as just making those events safer. but also the data that's coming along with connected vehicles, and just being able to leverage that data to create new industry tools in order to monitor and actively make decisions for how to better manage events are going to come with connected vehicles. And then, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. In Lenore, the city's taking on a really big role in planning for FIFA World Cup, as you noted. Can you share a bit more about the city's involvement and how do you coordinate with all the players when it comes to planning for such a big event?
Absolutely. One of the things that's unique about the FIFA World Cup games is the city actually has a lot more responsibility for deliverables than we do for many of the other events, which are more with the stadium or with the World Congress Center. So that's a little unique. So what's real interesting is that for the Club World Cup games that are coming next month, or yeah, it's still May. That is actually a contract between FIFA and the stadium. And even though the city is participating, we don't have any obligations or responsibilities to deliver any documents or deliverables or anything that would come along with that. But for the World Cup games in 26, the city is responsible for a number of deliverables, whether it's our mobility plan that we've been working on, sustainability plan. We are also engaged, obviously, in public safety, hospitality. It's got so many different moving parts, and they all tend to overlap with each other. So at ATLDOT, we are helping to coordinate the conversations with specifically our transportation stakeholders, but the overlap with public safety. So we have APD, we have chief that participates in those, MARTA, airport, our own internal staff and consultants that we have, ARC, I'm sure GDOT is also at the table with us, and then we're growing that as we continue through the process. We had to submit a mobility plan to FIFA with our first draft at the end of March, and we just had our comment session with them a couple of weeks ago. I think we have one of the most in-depth and longest of all of the other cities that was put together, but it covers everything from airport transportation from a vehicular perspective. How are we getting all of FIFA's stakeholders from and to things? Yes, they're a little concerned about the folks who have tickets, but they're more concerned about their own staff, their VVIPs, their refs, their teams. And so we have all sorts of corridor planning that we have to document and model, looking at travel times, and then we're overlaying that with public safety, rideshare, transit, all the different modes of transportation that need to fit into that. And it is a pretty daunting document when you start thinking about all the pieces that are fitting into it. One of the things that I think that Atlanta has in its advantages, all the way we just talked about, we have been doing big events in this region well for a very long time. And I think many other cities that are involved in the World Cup are as well, but not as well as we are. It's really interesting. I was sharing with them at the table earlier that we sit in on the other host cities, their leaders. We have a monthly meeting with them, one with US DOT and one without. And I feel like they're all in panic mode on a regular basis. And I'm not quite sure why, because some of them are really big cities that seem to have done this before, but they just don't have all the tools and the partnerships and the things in place that we do. And we've been pushing back on FIFA. You know, we had to all start at the same place and agree to the same things. But because every city is unique, we are able to push back and say, well, that's great that you want that FIFA, but it's not going to happen. Here's what we can give you. And that's worked out in our favor so far. And so we are continuing to have monthly coordination meetings, not only with FIFA, but all the stakeholders I just mentioned. And I think those will start to be more frequent in a couple of months. Most of our FIFA colleagues are a little inundated with the Club World Cup games at the moment. And so we're giving them some breathing room before we start working on our next deliverables, which will be in October. And then we have the actual team draws don't happen until December. And we have to finalize our document by March for games that start in June. So you can imagine there's a lot of pieces that are happening all at the same time. And if it wasn't for these existing partnerships and established plans that we have already in place, I don't think any of it would be possible or as successful as it has been so far.
Great, thanks, Lenor. And Chief Guerrucci, you've been very instrumental in improving traffic for events at Mercedes-Benz and Georgia World Congress Center, giving us that great experience that Lenor just spoke to. Could you share about how you have used your relationships and connections to improve operations? Like, what sort of stakeholders do you coordinate with, and what challenges do you face?
Thank you for that great question. So you know, as we've evolved this, and as we speak up here, and you're hearing just the strategies and the technologies just flow like it's secondhand, second nature. But that took, from my side of the fence, 8 years to get where we are right now. To let everybody have the knowledge, the skill set, and the experience to make this happen. When I first came to the World Congress Center, the traffic plan for egress for the dome took anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours. And some of you may have experienced that. Well, and that to me sounded crazy. How could that possibly happen? So I started to look into it because now I'm in charge. So I started with, what's the process? What's the plan? And somebody hands me, well, here's the plan. It was developed by a company called Kimley-Horn. And I'm like, well, who's that? Because, you know, I'm thinking, you know, on the police side, we don't use traffic engineers. We look at the light, there's the traffic, get out there and pull it. From traffic light to traffic light as far as you can see. And our great motors team, I mean, that's just the way we used to do it. You go to an accident scene, you take charge, you clear the traffic. Well, that's the same kind of methodology that the previous coordinators used. There was a police officer with great skills and abilities to move traffic, and they usually came from a motors unit or a traffic unit within the police department that knew how to do that. But I'm like, it's not working. So what's your plan? And do you know about the plan that was designed by Kimley-Horn? And they said, yeah, we've seen that, but that's no good. That's not going to work. And I'm like, okay, so you think it's okay to be a 2 or 3 hour egress? And they said, always done it that way, right? Always done it that way. And they had about probably 30 or 40 officers, maybe 50, because their way of getting the officers and personnel on scene was pick up the phone and call them, can you work this weekend? Can you work this day? So you had one officer trying to manage that. So 0 technology, 0 following the plan, and just get out there and do it. So I recognized that early on and said, this isn't going to work. So who are my partners? Who do I know that I can call on? And who is this Kimley-Horn? So I kind of started with that because I looked at the plan and it was like, whoa, this is just completely overwhelming. You know, all these graphs and maps and dot maps, and I'm like, too complicated for the police officer, right? Too complicated. We can't pull that out and work that at a scene. But actually, everything starts with a good plan. And you need to get the right people to manufacture that plan for you. And it's certainly not a police officer pulling traffic. It can evolve into that. They can be part of a team. But the engineers are where it starts, the people who are professionals at that. I recognize that. Look to find those people. Looked who was the author of this plan. Started to evolve towards that, migrate towards that. And things started to get better. But then the biggest challenge was changing the culture that existed with the officers. We know how to do it. No piece of paper is going to tell me how to do it. That's obsolete. So it took several years actually to change that. And even, I can say, even within a couple of 3 years, we had commanders that would see traffic at an intersection building up and would send an officer there to clear it and completely do what to the plan? Mess it up. Because if you mess up one part, you've just counterbalanced the entire thing. So recognizing that, continue to work with them and build those partnerships with the officers and get them to understand now it's not you who's managing the traffic, it's the traffic engineers through all their technology. And now we have the officers to understand they clear the box. And that's the way that it has evolved into a strategy that we went from an hour and a half to 3 hours to clearing our entire campus sometimes in as little as 45 minutes. And it's rare that we go hour and 15. Now, the other part of that is when we do have an event that it took an hour and a half, that's a tragedy these days. The world's ending. I get all kind of calls. What happened to the traffic plan? Where's your officers? But it also, with the Kimley-Horn and team and technology, I'm able to go back and actually say, where's the data? Look at it. Tell me why we had this problem in this certain area. And I'm telling you, it's on the spot every time. For every event that we have some type of hardship or some type of delay, I'm able to go back to the team and say, what was it? And come back with factual data to support what occurred. Now, what happens a lot of times, somebody will say that I sat at that intersection for 15 minutes before it even moved. Well, we'll able to go back and actually say that 15 minutes was actually 4 minutes. But it used to be 2 minutes. So how can we improve on that 2 minutes? But it gives me the confidence in the entire team and the partnerships that we're not just, I think this is what happened. This is what I know happened, and it gives us a real ability to continue to improve. And that's what the partnerships have evolved to. And it's not a I did this, I did that, the World Congress Center did. It's all of us that did this. I can truly say that these partnerships for me started 20 years ago with the city of Atlanta, and the positions that I was fortunate enough to be in put me in contact with all these great partnerships. And I recognize that I need to call on them. They're the specialists. They help us evolve and turns into success. And I know we hear that the Super Bowl was great, but that's just not coming from the Atlanta area. When I talk to international partners and international associates and national, they all say that the Atlanta Super Bowl 53 was one of the best ones in history. That's proud for us to have been able to achieve that. And it wasn't by one person. It wasn't by just any one agency. It was a collective measure. And for some reason, we do that extremely well. And that needs to be recognized. And that is, if it's a takeaway for any other city, it's work your partnerships. I've been to them. I've been to other large cities and saw how they work these giant events. And I do see a lot of improvements that can be made in relationship building and communication. And we always hear that communication is the #1 issue with everybody. It's always on the forefront, but keeping that in mind, we're always trying to improve that. So those are some of the challenges that we run into. A new officer will come in and look at the process and say, this isn't right. I need to get out in the intersection to pull it. No, get back where you need to be. We all run it through an EOC. Get on with the commander of the EOC and make it part of the standard strategy that's already in place and not try to venture off and do your own thing. Make sense? So those are some of the reasons that we continue to have success, continue to acknowledge what the challenges are. And actually, I'm able to go to a tool, and the tool is the Kimley-Horn team, and say, what was the problem here? And I can actually cite exact complaints to very, very important people, which were all important, but look at it and give them an actual factual answer on what occurred. And then I've also recently really, really expanded our relationship and partnership with ADOT and GDOT. All those important members are at the table now. I was previously running a monthly traffic meeting, which was done by my personnel. And that went on for years since I've been there, 6 or 7 years. But I'm looking at it like, I'm not getting, me as the commander and the person in charge, I'm not getting anything out of my own meeting. That's a bad sign, although we have great statistics. But it wasn't enough. I knew we had a lot of big things on the horizon. I'm like, this isn't going to work. So graciously, someone from Kimley-Horn says, then they knew. They were being nice. They knew. But they said, you want me to run it for you? What do you think I said? Absolutely, yes. Come on. You know, here we have a highly qualified organization and team. So I said, yes, please do it. It's evolved in the past year and a half tenfold. And it brought additional partnerships in. So I've seen a really elevated enthusiasm and participation, because now it's not just the World Congress Center with its 120 officers working the traffic to get them off campus. Now we have the entire city of Atlanta working to get them even beyond there. And then all of GDOT that's part of it to really flush them out. And the facts say it's working well. Just had a good success story. An executive from the stadium just recently, last Sunday, there was a medical emergency and they needed to go to Grady. So during egress, they got from the Mercedes-Benz building to Grady during a massive egress in 20 minutes. That's outstanding. Now, that wasn't an ambulance trip. It would have been quicker, but just for a normal vehicle to get from Mercedes-Benz to Grady during a massive ingress or egress in 20 minutes is just outstanding. Never heard of. So, and that's a result of all the partnerships and all the teamwork. And that's what will help us with our upcoming games. What's going to be different, and Lenor mentioned this, the Club Cup games is a relationship between Mercedes-Benz and FIFA. And generally we work all the traffic for that anyway, so that's just another rinse and repeat of the major traffic plan that we already have in place that is really effective, really works. What's different about next year is that's going to be a 30 or 40 day pull of events all over. And we're going to have Fan Fest in Centennial Olympic Park. And I've heard numbers as much as 80,000 people per day. So we need to incorporate a plan to merge the vehicular and pedestrian traffic all in one. So that's going to be some of our challenges that we need to work through. So if you can just vision yourself, if you know where Centennial Park is, how we're going to manage a park that will hold about 18,000 people at a time, how are we going to manage 30, 40, 50,000 additional people? And how are they getting down there? Where are we going to put the cars? How are we going to separate them from vehicular traffic on the roadways? So these are the plans that we're all working together, but those are certainly the challenges that we look forward to resolving and coming to a great end on. So we are taking applications for traffic officers, and I think there's probably some room there that we can train you if you're a civilian. So get with me afterwards if you're interested. Thank you.
Plenty of work to be done. Thanks, Chief Guerrucci. And you already hit also on some differences for the World Cup as well, which I was curious about for you to answer. Okay, Lenor, can I have you explain some of the infrastructure improvements that the city is making in preparation for the World Cup?
Absolutely. If you've been downtown recently, there's an awful lot going on, not just by us, but by a lot of our partners and developers and utilities that are also all trying to get ready for all the things that are related to World Cup. The Department of Transportation in the city of Atlanta already had a number of funded programs that were surrounding all of our infrastructure investment, whether it was sidewalk projects, Safe Street projects, signal projects, through our Renew Bond program from 2017 timeframe, our Moving Atlanta Forward Bond program, which is from the 2022 timeframe. But we realized that even though that focused on a number of really critical needs across the city, if you think about the makeup of the people who will likely be coming to the FIFA World Cup games, you'll be interested to know that about 80% will be international. They will not be from Atlanta. They will not even be from the United States. I think we get about 1% for the region that will likely be attending the matches. Well, if you think about most of those countries, they are used to transit. They're used to walking. They don't necessarily jump in a car to go to things in the communities they live in or to go to the events that they go to. A great number of folks are going to be staying in a space where they can actually walk to the Fan Fest, walk to the match. Hopefully they hit a great restaurant or bar along the way. which will, lead to all sorts of other great activities happening around the city. So that means that we need to think about a lot of the other spaces in the downtown area. And so we decided to work with our council, and we got another $120 million bond through our Atlanta urban redevelopment area. About half of that is going towards resurfacing of streets downtown. Because of all the development we've had, we have a lot of utility cuts and potholes that have formed around those utility cuts. I tend to refer to it as natural traffic calming. Not everybody agrees with me. So we have a massive, about $65 million worth of resurfacing of those streets across the downtown area, and a little bit beyond up into Midtown as well, knowing that we are going to have folks, whether it's the buses that we're bringing teams in on, we're still going to be utilizing those streets. We're still going to have vehicular traffic. It's not going to go away. So we need to make sure that we've got those streets resurfaced and striped, doing other safety improvements along the way to make sure that we've got a good, solid roadway network. Along with that, we are doing a sidewalk, ADA ramp, replacement and repair, some extension and filling some gaps, but mostly it's just making sure it's on a good state of repair. We've also got wayfinding, a lot of signal upgrades, lighting in a few special places, because we know that we're going to have folks walking. We're trying to focus on specific corridors, knowing that we want to steer these folks who are going to the Matches to the Fan Fest along certain routes to get from a hotel to their destination, from a transit station to their destination. And so that's a part of the mobility plan that we've been looking at, is how do we identify those corridors so we can make sure we're being really smart with that investment. We're going to have wayfinding signs to hopefully get folks to those corridors and continue to build on the great program that we already had underway within the city. And I think that pretty much covers it. I'm sure I'm missing something later.
Great stuff. Thanks, Lenor. Justin, could you share about any lessons learned from your involvement in managing large events that you have been able to then apply across the state?
Sure. It's a really great question. Helps us sell the importance of our program from the SIGOPS program. Atlanta being the capital city for Georgia makes it a priority to GDOT right off, and these large events make them a priority to make it quite easy for us to invest in. Successful major events downtown make GDOT look successful, meet our goals, so that's great. But what this really does is help us build out and maybe fine-tune the framework that we have to manage planned and unplanned events across the state. Certainly, nothing will approach FIFA World Cup elsewhere in the state, or at least I hope it won't. But we have events statewide. All those technologies that I mentioned are necessary as a framework to ensure that we can respond, whether it be to a planned event that you only have a week to get ready for instead of 2 years, or even an unplanned event such, some kind of interstate closure that we now need to adjust for. So all those technologies are necessary. In addition to those technologies, though, these relationships we've spoken about, yes, Kimley-Horn is great. We work with a lot of other folks who we have stationed strategically across the state to assist in different regions, very much focused on the context of that region. We have regions that are more focused on truck traffic and freight. We have regions that are maybe focused heavily on moving pedestrians through dense urban areas, and other areas where we really want to push vehicles on urban or rural arterials. But by having those relationships in place, like we've talked a lot about that, and this only further makes us realize when we have an issue go down that we don't feel like we managed an event occur, that we don't feel like we managed at a high level. Well, who don't we know in that city and county that we really need to connect with? Things like that. Training staff and resources. So making sure that those local agencies, what you have that understanding of what they're doing, what those districts are doing with their signals and arterials. What staffing don't they have that they could use support on, and how can we provide that staffing support? How can we train them up so that they're ready? You just don't have time to teach someone to log into a system when you're managing an unplanned event. There's no time for it. So getting those resources in front of them early and making sure they know what to do with them. And yes, providing active monitoring and management of things that are going on. So when someone does reach out, hey, we understand, we're here to help. At the same time, this is not really a problem for your city. We would suggest focusing on this, things like that. So it really is no one specific lesson learned, but continually informing that framework of the SIGOPS program is what we get out of major events like this.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. And then Erin, to round us out here, from this conversation, it's clear that there is quite a bit of effort and investment going into hosting the World Cup in Atlanta. What is the anticipated economic impact of hosting the World Cup in Atlanta?
Okay, so Atlanta is using a very conservative model. Just for now, it's based on out-of-town visitor spending only. So we're looking at 503 million, a little bit over 503 million, but that does not account for any Atlanta, Georgia residents that are going to come into downtown, attend our fan fest, attend matches. So again, I think we're going to see a number significantly higher, but the chamber actually did a full 30-page study. It is published on their website. So if anybody likes numbers and wants to nerd out, I definitely encourage you to go there and check it out. It's very good. It's very robust. But in December of this year, we're going to actually find out the countries that are heading to Atlanta. And I think that that's going to be very pivotal on how we actually approach the next phase of a study on economic impact. We're actually going to have some concrete data we can use based on those countries and how they previously participated in World Cup and how their fans travel to major national, international sporting events just on a regular basis. So I think we're going to learn a lot in December.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Okay, and do we have time for audience questions? Okay, great. We have some time for a few audience questions. Bing, how do we? Okay, put your hands up again. How about you here in the front?
God forbid that there is a water main break in a sinkhole on Northside Drive.
Did that actually happen?
What agency takes the lead, and how is the process, without going to, I know not 406 pages, but to get the agencies to coordinate the detours, signal timing changes, pedestrian access, how would that function?
So it depends a little bit on the location, but generally speaking, as soon as we are made aware of an emergency within the city of Atlanta, we actually have an emergency management team under the office of the mayor, and each of our departments, whether it's DOT, DPW, our Department of Public Works, Watershed, we are all immediately on alert. The Atlanta Department of Transportation supports whoever it is. I'll use an example. Recently, we actually had an issue right outside of City Hall where a utility company had been doing some work, done some hydrovac, and it had actually done some damage downstream about a block away, and all of a sudden we had pavement failure in the middle of a very busy one-way street in the middle of rush hour with a lot of utility work going on in the area. Our team is immediately notified, so our crews were bringing barricades. We were working on, in this case, we were lucky we didn't have to do a full detour, but then we also got a meeting on the horn that evening, brought GDOT in because we were backing up onto the interstate. How can we redirect traffic off of the interstate? So our emergency management team made sure that we reached out to all the appropriate departments and agencies that were associated with that. If it were something over closer to our Congress Center, obviously we would bring Chief and his team in to that as well. So it does depend a little bit on the location, but with our emergency management response team that we've got, we have a lot of stuff that's online, immediately have teams set up, so we're communicating. When we have longer term issues, we have a regular cadence. It's usually every few hours, 24 hours a day, where we are jumping on to make those updates and reports out so that we can make sure everybody's informed of all of the activities, what we are in the middle of doing, what are our progress, what are our dates, so we can actually get the information out to the public in addition to across all of the agencies that are involved. Anybody want to add anything?
There's a lot from GDOT side. I don't think we have District 7 in the room, but I'll try and speak on behalf of them a little bit. I know they'll be one of the first folks. If there is going to be a call from the city, it would probably hit the district first, really. And they would spin up quickly any maintenance staff that would be necessary to get out there and help with barricades, cones, things like that. They would partner with the district traffic office to make sure that they have a good detour route in place and put up signage as quickly as possible for something like that. That can vary, significantly. GDOT has multiple systems in place that help kind of detect those events and communicate them. But Christina Berry, myself, Alan Davis might get some rave alerts and then start deciding if this is going to have impacts on the interstate, if this is going to have impacts on the arterials, and then push that down to the teams who are going to impact or implement traffic strategies for that traffic. Anyways, there's a lot that can go into that, but we're working pretty extensively, us and our interstate operations teams, to better document and automate that process as well for actually managing traffic around those events. But it's not at all possible without some maintenance staff from the department who just aren't even here but they play a huge role in these events as well. And I just kind of completely forgot to mention them. So don't tell Megan.
All right. Another one?
Were you referring to an actual event? Because we had a sinkhole on Northside. Okay, because it actually did happen.
We did actually have one of those.
Yeah, I thought you might have been referring to that, but we did have a sinkhole there. So everything went into place, and it mainly impacted our traffic during major events, but everything that was just stated actually happened.
All right, another one? Yeah. Oh, I think we have a mic coming.
Thank you. How many different sporting event venues will be utilized to host this, and are they all contained in the City of Atlanta city limits?
Yeah, well, you probably know more than I do.
Yeah, so there are happening in other. Now, as far as where the game is going to occur, here, only at MBS. The other things that are training sites and practice sites. That answer your question? They are outside. Yeah, it's very broad. And then the other considerations that we have is escorts, but they are other jurisdictions as well, and they are part of the planning process. And I told the host committee when they said, "Hey, you're going to be part of the host committee public safety." I'm like, I already have a full-time job, but this is really probably added for all of us another 30-40% onto our plates to help manage. But of course, we're up for the challenge. But it's very, very intense on our meetings and coordination. But yes, it is Metro Atlanta.
I'm just going to add really quick to that. So we actually are very fortunate to have 3 official team base camps. So 2 in Marietta, Atlanta United Training Facility, Kennesaw State University's 5th, they just changed the name, 5th Third Stadium. They removed Bing. And Mercer University, so is also going to be a 3rd. So it actually is expanding well beyond the metro area. And then if you actually think about, these aren't like venues being used necessarily for competition, but the amount of private airports we have, in addition to Hartsfield-Jackson, we are going to see an influx of visitors at all of those spots. And then we are in conversation about potentially adding a 4th team base camp. So that would give us 4. Most of the other host cities, I believe, have 2 to 3 in their region. So we are super excited to at least have a minimum of 3 going forward.
Massive.
All right, Sean.
Hello. This is awesome. I just those of y'all that know me, this just like warms my heart. Highlight of my career was working with you, Chief, Erin, Super Bowl, so many people in this room. And I told a story to y'all earlier that probably the best moment was, and this is just bragging on Atlanta, y'all, and bragging on our industry, was, Matt, you remember when Miami came to the TMC, the host committee for the Super Bowl the next year, to tour and see what we were doing. And they were like, wow, y'all care a lot here. Y'all actually like care. We're like, well, yeah, this is kind of our job. They're like, well, we're Miami. We basically get a Super Bowl no matter what. And but what they were saying is that we had a group of committed agencies and partners and folks that were committed to the same mission, because Atlanta had to prove itself for that Super Bowl, because the NFL wasn't excited to be there either. They're like, oh yeah, Super Bowl in early 2000s, kind of a mess, ice storm, like that was our fault. But we had to prove ourselves because we're not Miami, we're not New Orleans and all these places. And so kudos to y'all for the plan and the execution of it. And I guess my question is, you had mentioned earlier, I think Erin, you had mentioned the advantage that Atlanta has of being so walkable, which is like, a lot of people are like, really? Atlanta, the king of sprawl? But Atlanta, we did that research for the Super Bowl,
was the highest concentration of every event in a 1 square mile radius. Stadium, the team hotels, cheerleaders, the NFL Live, everything was right there. So that's a huge advantage. But I guess what are the challenges that come with that too, of everything being in one spot? Because in other cities, you're absolutely right. The NFL Live or the World Cup event may be 20 miles away. The stadium may be 20 miles away. Not in Atlanta. It's all in one spot. So what are the challenges that y'all face in that much concentration of fans?
It's probably, do we have enough personnel to manage all these events simultaneously? When we did the Super Bowl, just for the numbers, the Super Bowl was a little bit of a different platform because we had like the entire World Congress Center was secured, had a fence around it, several controlled access points, and it took me over 600 officers to manage on a 24-hour period just inside that footprint. So the city of Atlanta and others, there were thousands of officers. So when it's spread out a little bit different, other agencies are involved and they can help manage it from their region. But when it's all right here, we have to pull all those resources together. And certainly we reach out for mutual aid through GMA and all of our other mutual aid partnerships. But it is a challenge getting appropriate personnel in. And then the other piece is it completely disrupts traffic in the entire area. But what I experienced during Super Bowl, it just wasn't that bad. So apparently our messaging went well too, but never really experienced any big, from my standpoint, on managing. Might have been rough for other people trying to transition through, but that's another piece. With everything happening right there, we are going to be really affecting the core of our city. It's good for pedestrian traffic, not necessarily good for vehicular traffic. And then it creates other security issues for me on how do we manage everything right here. So a lot of intelligence that goes on the backside that also are big concerns. And then, but those are the main things, you know, how it affects the core of the city, and can we sufficiently manage with our personnel.
And I'll just add to that, one of the things that makes the World Cup phenomenon a lot more unique is going to be the folks who are coming. When we find out what teams are coming, what countries are coming, I'm not sure how many folks have attended an international football match, but the fans are super passionate, and every country has a slightly different level of that, and some countries do not like each other at all. And so that's another layer from a public safety and from a transportation perspective, because they like to march from where their teams are staying to the matches, and it's going to be a really long walk for some of them, but there's a lot of those elements to it that lend itself when you're really compact, but it also is a big challenge, to Chief's point, when it comes to how do we make sure that this is not happening to our city, but with our city, and making sure the folks who live and work within the Metro Atlanta area are able to continue to function and survive along with us during the whole thing. So communication is going to be key, but also that's part of our mobility plan, is making sure that we account for how's everybody else going to be able to function and live their daily lives while this is happening.
All right, do we have time? One more?
Yeah, let's do the last.
Okay, how about right up here?
Have there been any travel demand management partnerships? You were mentioning the city of Atlanta trying to live with and in coexistence with all the international travelers expected for the World Cup. Talk a little bit about that. Has Georgia Commute Options been involved? Is there a coordination with downtown partnerships, ADID, et cetera?
Thank you for that question, Chris. Yes, it has, and I might actually lean on Kimley-Horn a little bit for some of this, but one of our, we have ARC at the table with the travel demand modeling and with the Georgia Commute Options, and figuring out how that can fit into the overall system. That's a part of the kind of the next phase of the plan that we're working on. We are partnering with ADID and honestly even with Midtown Alliance and a few of the other CIDs within the region on the projects that we're delivering to try and get things delivered faster. Sometimes our partners can get things on the street a little bit faster than the city can. Path Foundation is another one that we're working through to try and get as much of those resources engaged in our development and design and construction so that we can be ready. We still have a bunch of work to do. A number of those pieces we won't be actually able to model until we have the data that we're going to get in December. So we're having to do a lot of guessing at everything right now, and then we'll fine tune that once we have the actual teams and know what data we really have coming into the city. And that's work we'll be doing basically in early 26 in advance of the games. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I think you captured it well. All right, it is 1 o'clock. Are we at time?
We're at time.
Okay, great. Well, thank you everybody for joining this month's meeting.
All right.